Hey everyone, this is Hart, and I'm back with Dragon Force 2. I have to tell you that there's a little bit missing between the last episode and this episode, and that's because I was having problems with, this game is kind of notorious with SSF, the emulator I'm using. I'm using my original disc, but because my Saturn doesn't work, I'm using it on my computer. It often freezes up in the battle sequences, and I've managed to get around it now, but I did have to fiddle around with the settings myself, just manually kind of slowly changing things up and getting stuff to work. But unfortunately, there's a block that I'd already recorded that that I got stuck halfway through, where a battle wouldn't load. And then when I went back to my old save, I didn't have a save that was just before that battle. So basically in that castle just before Shen's kingdom, and in this castle in the middle, I managed to defeat those generals. Nothing really new happened, so don't worry about it. The next thing that we're going to do though is move on to get Shen, the Monarch of Topaz, to join our force. So I'm just doing the usual housekeeping before then. Now let's see. I might as well tell you a little bit about the people that joined me, I think. This is a little while ago now because I played through a large portion of the game. I got a lot of the recording done 2 days ago now, I think? 2 days? 3 days? And so I've managed to get up to the portion of the story where all of the monarchs are united, so that's good. Now I just need to go through and do all this commentary, but unfortunately because it was quite a while ago, I kind of can't remember what I was doing at this stage. I know that... what's her name? Of the generals that defected to join my side, there was... where is she? I'd help if I could remember her name. I don't know what her face looks like. Oh, Koran, that's her name. She's a priestess. Her element is darkness, level 5, 28-year-old female, human, and she's from Topaz. She joined me. And then also someone else, but I can't remember. So here I'm going into the caves with Shaim and Mark. And the reason I'm going with Shaim in particular is because the only troops that are super effective, to borrow a term from Pokemon, against the Doggle units are horseback units. So even though they're not that special a unit, they're the best units for going through the caves. And then this is the skill Thunderfall, which I think is pretty much the same as it was in Dragon Force 1. I remember reading something interesting about the way Thunderfall works. Okay, here it is. Thunderfall, it's a darkness spell. Your level divided by 2 plus 2 soldiers is the number of soldiers it kills. That's pretty interesting. Okay, and I didn't mean to duel here. So yeah, this is how not to duel. I meant to retreat, but oh well. If your general's HP drops down to 0, one of 2 things can happen. They can either get injured. Actually, 3 things can happen. They can either get injured, which means that you can't use them, and they'll go into the ward in your castle to recover. And you can either use an Astea's herb to bring them out immediately, or you have to wait until they recover, so you can't use them for a couple of turns. That tends to happen with sort of story essential characters, like for example Mark or Shine. If you're fighting an enemy monarch, so not in a cave like this, they can be captured as prisoners of war, which means that they can defect, or you may have to rescue them back. If you're fighting, for example, 3-on-3, and one of your generals dies and gets captured by the enemy, if you win the entire battle, so with your other 2 generals, then you recapture your general and they go back to your side. They may still be injured. then the last thing that can happen is if you have a monarch die in battle, sometimes even though they should be injured, they remain with you with just 1 HP, so that's quite good. Oh, then he just conscripted Laura, who's another Dogo unit, I think, or she might be half Dogo. Oh, Alia is recruiting someone. Lots of people are being recruited. Oscar. Oh, Sheris. Sheris is quite interesting because she's from Tradnor, and she's actually a childhood friend of Sanith, so she joins you quite easily if you're with Tradnor. I'm going to start speeding through these domestic phases because I tend to do the same things over and over. If I'm doing anything interesting, I'll slow it down and let you see properly. But basically, every domestic phase, I talk to my prisoners of war, try to get them to join me, check the new equipment, the weapons and accessories that I found during the previous phase, award any merits to give my units new troops, or use scrolls to give them new troop types, and then fortify my castles. It's basically the same for every turn. You don't necessarily have to fortify your castles. The main benefit is that you get, if you're fighting from within it, you get a bigger defense boost against attacking forces, and also the number of troops that it can hold as spare recruitable troops goes up, I think up to about 500 or 600. So when you get later in the game and each of your generals has 100 troops each, and if you fight a difficult battle and most of your units die, in order to refill them, if you have a high level castle you can do it straight away. If you have a lower level castle, you have to kind of refill one general at a time and just keep waiting for new recruits to arrive. So those are the benefits. Other than that, it doesn't need to be done. I tend to just do it for the sake of completion, but if it's a castle that you just know you're never going to use, then you don't always have to bother. I gave Isaac some merits here since he's the only high beast unit using general I have at the moment, since the majority of them belong to Bozak. So just in case I need to use high beasts, I thought I'd have him as my designated beast man. The only other time that it helps to fortify castles is if you know that that castle kind of acts as a bottleneck, where other territories or other generals can have access to your kingdom. So, for example, just south of here, I tend to try to fortify that castle. This castle, that Orvo is usually in the castle to the south. Enemies can often come up from the south towards you, and the first sort of point of call is that castle, so I usually keep some strong units there and try to fortify it as much as I can, just to make my life a little bit easier. Now here I'm gonna make towards Shen's castle in order to get him to join my side. So he's northwest of here. Incidentally, the question it asks when you form a party to leave a castle is if you want to take your prisoners of war with you. If you know that the castle you're going to want to leave units there, it's often a good idea to bring them with you. Otherwise, you don't need to bother. So Shen sent someone out to meet us on the way, which is kind of annoying, because it means we have to fight 2 battles. So what I'm going to do is just head back with the unit I sent out so that they can defend from the castle, which gives me more options for generals and gives me that defense boost that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so Annette is the first character that they're sending out. And Lenny still is only level 2, which means she doesn't have any decent attack magic, which is quite irritating. Lenny, as a monarch, is difficult to use, in my opinion, because her first spell is Hyperstorm, which gets rid of enemies, and then she gets Healing, and then she gets magic charge, I think. And so before she gets an actual attack spell that can harm the enemy general, getting experience with her is difficult because you get the most experience for actually killing the enemy as opposed to forcing them to retreat. And the reason I've left this battle in at normal speed is that I think this is the first time you get to see the Birdman units. I got sick of Lenny having only ranged units, so I gave her a decent unit, a Birdman unit. As far as I'm aware, there's no general that starts with Birdmen, so you need to teach generals how to use that unit using a scroll. You can find the scroll in various places on the map when you have high intelligence characters stationed in castles, or you can also create one through research. Towards the end, once I've created a lot of the things I need to use through research, I'll show you how to make them, give you the recipes. There are specific recipes, so to speak. So, and because each research takes about 2 to 3 weeks to complete, and materials that can be quite hard to come by, it's better not to just try and experiment. It's better to know what you're trying to make in the first place. So I'll go through those later on. So we're fighting Annette. She is an archer. Element is fire. She's level 2. She's 26 years old. She's a female human, and she's from the terrain of Moon Palace, or Pale Moon. So she is a talented archer whose skill rivals that of Kiri, who's from Izumo. So either of them could be the best archer in the entire land. Kiri is, I think, one of Kaede's starting characters, but she's also an archer. An interesting thing about using flying type units is that your enemy generals, and in fact the units as well, have 2 attack animations, one which is to attack an enemy on their level, and one which is to attack an enemy above them. So here you can see Annette using her bow to attack the birdmen. But even normal units like soldiers or horsemen, if they're attacking a flying unit, they use a different animation, which is pretty neat, I think. So unfortunately, I don't have any attack spells with Denny, so it's difficult for me to knock out the general to get the most experience. In order to get experience, there's 5 ways of getting experience. The first way is if you drop the enemy general's HP down to 0, that gives you the most experience. The next is if you force them to retreat. Then you still get experience if there's a draw. You even get experience if you retreat and lose, and you even get experience if your general is killed or is injured, so their HP goes down to 0. But the amount of experience you get is in descending order. So killing them gives you the most, then making them faint, then having a draw, then retreating yourself, then dying. So even if you lose, you can get experience, which is good, because sometimes when you're fighting with very weak generals, it can be difficult to even win, let alone get to a draw. But unfortunately, you can't get as much experience as if you knock them out, which is why I find it very, very easy to level up Sanith, because she can just spam water ball. And one of the biggest arts to do with battle in this game is timing your final skill just before they retreat when they have very low HP, so that you can knock them out without them retreating first. So that's the most exciting thing about battle, I think. And so when both troops are at 0 and both generals consent, we have a duel.